And welcome back, everyone, to Box Office Report today on the 10th of November, 2024. And I didn't get the box office right. I did get number one right, but I didn't get that was the best Christmas pageant overperformed, at least from my perspective. But Venom: The Last Dance still made the number one, 16.2 million for 3 weeks in a row. The best Christmas pageant ever debuts at 11.1 million. Heretic debuts at a little under 11.1 million. The Wild Robots still in the top 5 with their 6.6 million, and Smile 2 rounds out the top 5 with 5 million, giving us an overall box office total this week of roughly, I think I'm going to start doing that, is kind of adding up the top 5 and see what we have very early on. But giving us a rough total of, let's see, 12, 24, 35, about 51 million. Low weekend right now. It could be lower. It was lower, I think, last week. But could be lower. But could be a lot higher too. But it's once we get into next week and then into the holiday weekend that we're really going to start to see the big box office weekends crawl back up. But Venom: Last Dance made there 6.2 million, dropping again only 30 some odd percent. This is roughly speaking what it's actually performed better than I thought it would, to be honest. I thought it was going to be closer to about 50, but it performed once again better than I expected the second week through, bringing its overall worldwide total right now to $394 million. So the good news for this film is, A, it's profitable, first and foremost. A, it's profitable. B, it's going to cross 400 million. 6 million away, made 16 million this weekend. It's crossing 400 million. Does it have an outside chance at maybe hitting 500? It's 106 million away. It's in its third week, and now the big releases that are going to drop it from the number one spot are coming out. Red 1, Gladiator 2, Wicked, Moana 2. All these things are going to come and just curb stomp its momentum, what momentum it has. So 106 million. If it's capable of doing it, it's got to do it through the international. Like I said last week, that's where this movie's money is going to be coming from, almost guaranteed. It was at around 320 something before the rest of the weekend came in, so it added about another 70 to 60-ish from the international. Next week's probably going to be probably closer to like 30-ish. So if I'm just theorizing from the international, not even domestic, or if I'm trying to add what I think those two numbers together are going to be like, we're going to see a movie that's probably around 440 next week. My guess is going to be no, it doesn't hit 500. My final prediction for its overall box office will be between 450 and 470. I'll say 450, 470. I think that's my in-between guess. But what does this tell us about this film and the possible future of the Sonyverse? Well, I still really hope the theory that a lot of people have, that I'm kind of leaning towards right now, is that Null might actually be brought into the MCU instead. Because a lot of people are speculating that Spider-Man 4 might involve Null. I don't know if you need to do it that way, but maybe having him on Battle World or something like that, and then being lined up for another big threat, maybe. Because right now the problem is you don't have anything apart from the Spider-Verse series of films, which isn't really connected to the live-action stuff. You've got 2 failed franchise starters with Morbius and Madam Web. And you got Kraven, which I'm liking the way Kraven looks, but these films have historically not had the best trajectory and not had the best legs. So we'll have to wait to Kraven. But other than that, you don't have any sort of... If you had at least set up a Sinister Six, maybe. Like, if you had at least 3 Sinister Six members already lined up, I could see where you were going with a King in Black storyline where the symbiotes and then the other Spider-Man villains are teaming up against Null. But I just don't know where you're going with that right now. So that is problematic for their Sonyverse. But this isn't like, say, the DCEU, where they hadn't had a film since Aquaman to hit over 400 until the very last Aquaman. As a matter of fact, you didn't have really many profitable films in the DCEU after Aquaman. You had Shazam, the first one, which was profitable. You had, thinking words. Then you had failure. Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey did not make its money back. You can't really blame Wonder Woman or Suicide Squad because that was a pandemic issue. Had those films had not been a pandemic, and B, not had that stupid day-and-date release for Suicide Squad, specifically the day-and-date release, had you not done that, Suicide Squad might have been able to make its money back. It might have. Because we know you could still make money even with a day-and-date release. Godzilla and Kong proved that. But then you go into non-pandemic era stuff, or post-pandemic era, where things were opening up even more, and you weren't doing day-and-date release. And by that point, the damage was done. Like Black Adam barely hit, almost hit 400. But this has already made Black Adam money in just 3 weeks, as opposed to Black Adam's total run. And that, I think, still lost money in the end. And then you had The Flash, which lost a lot of money. Blue Beetle lost a lot of money. And Aquaman 2 managed it 400 plus, but lost a lot of money. So it's unfortunate. It sucks. But this isn't quite the same scenario, because first off, you have far less films. But you started out strong with Venom with 860. Then Venom 2 came out. Well, actually, then Morbius came out. Didn't do so well, but then you had another hit with Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Not as strong, but again, pandemic era stuff. Then you had Madam Web, which, legendarily bad. Will be in my top 10 worst of the year bad. But now you have Venom 3, which, again, is the weakest so far of the Venoms in terms of box office, but it still has made money. So the Venom films, even when they're bad, and like I said, I enjoyed the film, but I acknowledge it was not the best. Even when they're not the best, people like Tom Hardy as this character in the Venom dynamic. They like this franchise enough to keep coming back, and are liking enough to get it profitable. So I really don't know what the future of the Sony Venomverse is going to be. All I know is it's not dead in the water yet. It definitely has taken a huge hit, but it's not dead in the water, because the money's there. The money shows. So this film will probably end up reaping a profit somewhere over $100 million when it's all said and done. It's only made on $120 million. You've got to factor probably about $80 million in marketing. I still haven't been able to find that budget, but that level makes sense. So it had to hit about 300 in total, which it's now done in spades. And it's going to cross 400 as of this week. So it's odd. It really is. It's an odd circumstance Sony finds himself in. My guess is we're not going to know or hear about what their grand plan for this series is until we see what Kraven does. If Kraven can actually be good and actually make maybe around the same amount as this movie does, which I'm guessing right now is going to be between 450, 470-ish, somewhere around there. If they can do that, and the fact that they keep these Sony films relatively low budget by Hollywood's comic book standards, then we might still be able to see an avenue to save this, the Sonyverse. If Kraven turns out to be shit, which I'm hoping it's not, but if it turns out to be shit, I'm not saying they give a lot of people will say, like, give Spider-Man back to Marvel. No. First off, they have a working relationship. They can use Spider-Man in Marvel. Make deals with certain villains, okay? That's fine. But don't, because you would not be getting Spider-Verse movies if Marvel had Spider-Man rights. You wouldn't be getting it. You wouldn't have gotten the first two Venoms, which if you're a fan of it, which the amount of money put in there says there was at least enough fans of it, you wouldn't have gotten those movies. So, and then you still wouldn't have gotten Spider-Man 2 if Marvel owned Sony. The Amazing Spider-Man, film, the original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. So because the more Disney and Marvel own the rights to characters, the less movies from those characters you get. That's the basic equation, because they can only have so much room in the year for so many movies before they run themselves thin, before they're too thin and they break apart. Whereas if you have other companies owning different, comic book, properties, then you can have multiple comic book films in a year, more comic book films anyway. For those of us who are fans of the comic book genre still, which there are still a large amount of us, people try to say, the comic book movies are dead. Deadpool and Wolverine would disagree. Sorry, $1.3 million plus $million, almost $4 million, highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Marvel, I'm sorry, your argument's invalid. No, it's an outlier. People just really like it. It's still a comic book movie. It's still a comic book movie. You can't say there's comic book movie fatigue when a comic book movie comes out and makes $1.3 some odd billion. You don't get to make that argument. People don't want bad comic book movies. They want good comic book movies. So when mediocre to bad movies start becoming slightly more the norm, people start to think the comic book movie genre is dying. But then good movies come out and completely course correct that mentality. So I don't know. It's just an argument that always comes up occasionally, and it's just a bullshit argument. It's not comic book movie fatigue. It's bad movie fatigue. It's mediocre fatigue. That's what it is. Anyway, best Christmas pageant ever. Made $11.1 million in its opening week. Really, that's it. It's based apparently off a book. I honestly, that's more than I thought it was going to make. And it's only made on $10 million. So this has at least a shot to make its money back, which Lionsgate definitely needs a win. I think they got maybe a few other films coming out this year, but they certainly need a win, Lionsgate, because they have not been having a good year this year. So that being said, on a $10 million budget, my guess, and I remember seeing the trailer, sure, but only maybe like 10, I'm guessing 10, 15 million marketing at best. So if it's just 10, it just needs to hit 30 million. The question is, will it do it? I'm going to be honest, though, even for films that are low budget like this, unless you see a nice international bump, at best, they usually just kind of break even. Because the cardinal rule is if you can make half your budget back, you're in a good spot. If you can make all your budget back in the opening weekend, you're in a fantastic spot. But the problem comes in for those low budget films. You'd think, okay, a $10 million film making $11 million is great, but what if this film takes a 60% drop next week? I don't think it will, but what if it takes a 50% drop? Well, now it only makes $5 million next week domestically. And if it's not getting much international appeal, the domestic is where it's at. For a film that's like on $10 million need to make $30 million, I would say you have to actually make more around the lines of 15 plus million to really be comfortable. You got to make over half there. So that's where I kind of line up when the math kind of lines up. But who knows? Maybe this film will do well. I don't really have a strong urge to see it. I'm going to be seeing the red one this week. So, well, we'll get to that when we get to it. Also, I get paid this week. It's my pay week. So might want to be picking up a popcorn bucket this week. Probably not the red one, although the red one popcorn bucket is pretty awesome. It's a sled with this big barrel on it. But I kind of want the Gladiator one with the helmet I can just put on. Speaking of films that have very low budgets, A24's Heretic, which my review for that's up. You can check it out if you haven't already. Made a little over 11 million, just a little under the 11.1. This is so close that it could actually swap places when the actuals come in. But that being said, 11 million against what I've heard is less than 10 million. Now, I don't know what less than 10 million means. Could be 9, could be 5. My guess is we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of like a $7 or an $8 million film. That's my guess. I will conservatively say 8 to highball it. That's those two. I will highball as well, not conservatively, but I will guess around 8. So, and now we did get a solid amount of trailers for this, but it wasn't like a supremely heavy marketing campaign. My best guess, again, would be maybe between 15, maybe 20 million. I'd be more inclined to say 15 in marketing. So you're looking at a film, 24, that's probably got, like, needs to make anywhere between 30 million to 36 million is what I guess. Which, again, we'll see what happens here. Now, does this have any international release right now? It does have a small international release right now, so that's at least something. I don't know if it's going to be making a lot of money internationally, but it does have it. They're the new boys on the block. They're new kids on the block, I guess is a better way to put it. The new kids on the block. It makes sense that they were probably going to be making at least double digits this week. I was surprised about the Christmas pageant one, not surprised by Heretic. So they were definitely going to garner some appeal, certainly. Wild Robot made $6.5 million, $292 million, $292 million. Not only is this film profitable, it's verging on 600 million. I have a feeling just like Venom's about to cross 400, this is about to cross 300 million. and it deserves it. It is a fantastic movie. And it shows again, I keep bringing this up, but it shows what happens when there's no other family films out. The main family film currently out is going to dominate the box office, especially when you make a quality film like Wild Robot is. And so good for it for taking advantage of the circumstance of its situation. It deserves all the credit. It deserves all the credit it got. It deserves all the love it's getting. Deserves all the cash it's making. So good for it, absolutely. Smile 2 made her $5 million. Another film that has quietly now crossed $123 million, which puts it firmly in the profit range, which is good. Because Paramount's another studio that kind of needs some wins right now. They're not having the best year either. But absolutely good on it. I can't speak enough praise about a lot of the films coming out this year. I wish I could speak more praise about this, but I did not go to see Smile 2. It's just, I didn't see the first Smile, even though I knew of the film, I knew about the film, all that. So it seemed disingenuous to go and review the sequel when I haven't actually seen the original in its entirety, just like reviews, clips, spoiler videos, all that. But look, 122 million. The film was made on about 28 million. You're looking at about, like I said, 30 million in marketing for this film. So it had to make just under 90, and it's cleared that very easy. So it's a very comfortable profit area now. And it's quietly kind of like building that profit up too. Like it's going from like 116 to like 120. I think next week we're going to see it maybe closing in like 140 something. It's not going to make the money the original made. It's not doing that. But it's still making a nice little chunk of change. Speaking of which, Conclave, which I believe I looked up the budget of Conclave. It's a low budget. I know that. But I can't remember what the budget was. Either way, it's not in the profit range right now. But the fact of the matter is, it's 22 million for another very low budget, more Oscar baiting film, which good. More people should go out and see these more prestige films to support A, the theater industry, but B, the filmmaking process as a whole. And it was a good film. It was, honestly, I would say it so far to say it was a great film. It will probably be in my top 10. Like I said, I think I did I would put myself on the spot and thought of like 5 movies that I think are better than this. And I know I said Dune 2. I do think Wolverine is better. Deadpool is frankly better than this movie. And that's not to say that they're 2 very different movies. I think there was just a different type of enjoyable factor to that. It's still excellent filmmaking as well, but still. I do think Inside Out 2 and Wild Robot are also better than this film. I think Furiosa is frankly a better film than this, but this is still a really good film. And again, my thoughts on that might change when I actually review the films for this year, and then be like, now I think about it, maybe this wasn't better, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's see, Anora, which is again, Yara, a young sex worker. I've seen the trailer. It's kind of a cute film. It looks like a cute film. And it looks like it's getting quite an audience. Like it actually went up because, well, it got 851 extra screens, but still it went up. That's whenever you can go up, that's great. That is fantastic. Here has currently gained 85 screens, dropped only 50% from last week, which is great for Here. $9.6 million right now, which I don't know what this film's made on. I assume it's probably low. But then again, maybe not, because, low in the grand scheme of things, like 20 to 30 million is low budget. That being said, Here has 2,732 screens. I'm wondering if, because this week it's saying it's going to get 2,500 plus screens. I was wondering if that meant it's going to be on that many screens. I think it means it's getting a full widescreen release now, which is probably going to bust up its numbers drastically. So we'll have to see what happens there. Because right now we've got a bunch of films currently that are like in the 3,000 spot, but are losing screens. Venom is now starting to lose screens. Red One's debuting this week as well, so it's going to be probably getting the majority of screens. So we'll have to wait and see. We Live in Time, another small film that's kind of came and quietly made 24 million. Again, probably a relatively low budget film. So we'll have to wait and see what that does long term, but good for it. Otherwise, we're now going into the very low impact things of the week. Terrifier 2 or 3 made her 1.4 million, $77 million. Again, we're talking about a film that if we round up to 78, which might as well round it, it'll hit 78. You're talking about a film that 2, 1, 6, So that is made roughly like 58 million in profit. Like that's nuts for a film. Now you might think for like big budget films that's a small amount, but any double digit amount of millions you make is great. But if you're say a $300 million film and you only make $58 million worth of profit, well, that's not bad, but it's not what you're hoping for. But if you're a $2.5 million film, or no, like I believe it's a $2 million film with $500,000 in marketing. So you only have to hit 39 million, $58-ish million worth of profit. You are like literally buying condos and be like, yeah, look how awesome we are. That's what you're doing. Elevation, this new kind of, post-apocalyptic alien world kind of movie. I was kind of interested in seeing it, but there was nothing, like no showings for it. At least not in my Cinemark. Overlord, The Sacred Kingdom. See, there's a reason I don't think I put this in the top 5 last week. Even though Overlord is a popular anime franchise, it's not one of the big ones like Demon Slayer, My Hero, Dragon Ball, where I felt like it would overtake the box office in any way. Like you'd have that really big release. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it's pretty mild. Then Beetlejuice, and they were into the very small ones. Beetlejuice. Hey, crossed 450, right on. And it's pretty much done at this point. Maybe an extra million when you factor everything in, but it's done. So yeah, overall, I'm not surprised about Venom Last Dance. I was right about that. I was a little surprised though about the Best Christmas Pageant. That did a little bit better than I thought it would. Either way though, what did you think of the box office? Let me know. This week we really only have the Here getting that wide release, and we got the red one. This is where Venom's gonna get booted out of the top, the number 1 spot. It will be red one this week, no doubt about that. After that though, it's gonna get tricky because I don't know how much Here is gonna make with the extra screens. My guess is probably not more than like 5 million, which would still be a bump up. But I do think still Venom: The Last Dance will probably be number 2 because I don't see Heretic or the Best Christmas Pageant taking less than 60%, under 50% drops. My guess is you're probably, even if they overperform and say like drop like 55%, you're still dealing with films that are making like 6-ish million. But if Venom drops 50%, which would seem logical with a new big release, even though it's only dropping 30 this week, well, that still puts it around 8 million. So I feel comfortable saying Venom will be number 2. Let me see what the reviews are for both of these right now. And I don't care about the critics score for Heretic or Best Christmas Pageant. I'm caring about the audience score, because the critic score for Venom is shit, but the audience score is very good, hence why people are going back to see it. Because that's where the money comes from. The money is coming from your audience score. It's not really coming from your critical score. That may influence the audience score a little bit, but that audience score is going to tell you all you really need to know most of the time. All right, then. So, let's see. Heretic. Okay, so both of these actually got very good reviews, both critically and audience-wise. 78 for Heretic and 98 for Best Christmas Pageant. So if I'm going to go by that metric, I will say the Best Christmas Pageant being the slight winner in this week's, at least before the actuals come out, and having the better critical reviews. I'll go Best Christmas Pageant number 3. Then I'm comfortable going Heretic at number 4, and then finally rounding out the Wild Robot number 5. So just to recap, I got Red 1, Venom Last Dance, Best Christmas Pageant, Heretic, Wild Robot. That's my prediction for next week. Who do you got and why? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.